The very base of the word pandemic actually comes from a Greek term. Starts with the word Pan. Of course, Pan is the goat god. Pan enjoyed to be intimate with children, and of course, forcefully intimate with children, and of course also goats, as depicted in this artwork right here. Pan is he's the deceiver god, the trickster god, the god summoned by the witches under the moonlight. And the word pandemic begins with the root word pan, which to them meant all, or should be in all. Pan should be in all. Pan is the originator of the entire pantheon of gods, the root of those pantheon of Greek and Roman gods. Pan's temple, where I'm about to walk you up to right now, has some interesting correlations. The temple of Pan right here, the border of Syria, between the pages and temples of that ancient world and your world right now during this virus today. Pan's temple, I'm about to walk you up to right here on the border of Syria, where he was worshipped by the aristocrats and the elites of that ancient age, and covered in documents such as the Epic of Gilgamesh. Right here has some interesting correlations between that ancient temple of Pan and the pandemic that you're in right now. Thought I'd mention them to you. Pandemic, demos, all, what should be in all. Demos is the people. It's also sort of rhymes with demons, which is what Pan was, the head. He should be in all the people. Pandemic, Pan, the trickster. Now, speaking of Pan, what you might find of interest as well is that this is where Pan was the most heavily worshipped, right at the base of Mount Hermon, which is on the border between Israel and Syria. In fact, it's dangerously on the border. I was nervous going into the site. All of these little pillars are for the entire site, which is in the woods, and they would decorate the forest trees, and there was a worship of the trees and the forest trees. Pan, the god of mischief and trickery and deception, well, he needed to be in all, according to the Greeks and the aristocrats at their ancient temple. Just giving you the definition of the origin of the word. Past the sign here for the Temple of Pan that you see on the screen, and you're going to go up some pathways that take you up where they have all of these pretty little streams where the water would segregate out, and if the water filled with too much blood, that was a bad sign by their belief system. So we go up towards the base of Mount Hermon where they worshipped Pan. Now, for the uppity-ups of the ancient world, this isn't just about summoning the spirit of Pan, going all the way back to Nimrod and Inanna of the ancient world. One of the key ways to get Pan in you. How do you get Pan in you? One of the ways to do that was through pharmakia. Now that's the Greek word pharmakia. That's where we get the word pharmacy today. Now, pharmakia means something more than natural herbs in the ground, or healthy things, or healthy practices, or even herbs that God made that may have a lot of kick to them. And this goes a step further beyond just hallucinogens. No, you need a strange brew, just like a witch's cauldron of a strange brew. Pharmakia, just like the Greek word precisely meant, and just like this whole array of occult worship here, pharmakia was one of the many arrays and forms of witchcraft. Pharmakia, and how do you get the Pan in you? Well, you need to have mixtures of things, and some of those things that were commonly used were fetal tissue, like aborted baby fetal tissue. Up this set of stairs here, where we're walking up, it's a little ways of a walk that you go up to their temple. This all comes, by the way, from the Mount Hermon video done by God in a Nutshell, which you can get to in our subscriber section. It's a full 2-hour documentary on this, but you're heading up and you're going to get to where the Greek and Roman, the aristocrats, the richy riches, the top religious guys of their days, the intellectuals, would gather at the mouth of this cave. I think actually, what's strange about this, I think actually some of your vaccines, actually whole ranges of them, actually use abortion material or fetal tissue. Now another way to get that strange mixture is from animal blood or animal tissues mixed with the herbs. And of course, the last favorite, look on the screen down here, would of course be bats tossed in the brewing mix, or of course, snakes. That looks like the mouth of a devil. It's even got all these red stones, and it's right there by Mount Hermon.
I just want to make sure I understand. In your entire career, and this was just one study, so I'm going to ask you again. In your entire career, how many fetuses have you worked with?
Well, I don't remember the exact number, but quite a few when we were studying them originally, before we decided to use them to make vaccines.
This man's name is Dr. Stephen Plotkin. He's often called the godfather of vaccines. He's discussing in this court deposition how fetuses that he got, aborted fetuses that they got from Sweden, were what were used to develop many of the vaccines that he developed.
I think it implies that I am the individual who will go to hell because of the use of aborted tissues, which I am glad to do.
Okay. Do you know if the mother is Catholic?
I have no idea.
Okay.
But she should consult her priest.
If she has if she's in fact Christian, I guess, right? In any event, so we have 76 in this study. Would you approximate it's been a few hundred fetuses?
Oh no, I don't think it was that many.
Now, I'd like to notate on Sweden. Sweden did no lockdown during this coronavirus. Now, you have to dig through the reports because CNN is going to tell you that Sweden got hit hard. But when you actually look at you have to look at that through a very shifted light, because when you actually look at the reports of Sweden, they did astoundingly well, and their economy is doing astoundingly fine, with no lockdown, crying out for necrophilia being legal, and also incest being legal.
Actually, all I can say is that the fetuses that I personally worked with actually came from Sweden, from a Swedish co-worker. And so I, in no case, was able to determine what exactly the reason for the abortion was.
I'm just asking you, some of the fetuses that you did use did come from abortions from people who were in psychiatric institutions, correct?
I don't know that. And what I'm telling you is that I got them from a co-worker, and if it's stated in the paper, it's true, but otherwise I do not know.
Okay, so if it's in the paper, you don't contest it, right?
I don't contest it, no.
Okay.
Go through all of this in these books. Mount Hermon is where in the book of Enoch 200 fallen angels came down. There's even a stela atop that mountain in honor of those who fell. And at the base of that mountain, right here, where you see the mouth of this cave, inside of there, you're going to find a large altar where they would sacrifice they weren't just into pedophilia, the aristocrats and the elite in their secret gathering places, but beyond that. But this is the cave of Pan, and it's right here where I stand right now and talk to you through this screen that Jesus said to Peter. And he was speaking to darkness in this area down in here where I'm stepping into the mouth that represents the mouth of the devil, the god Pan. And in fact, on top of that broken altar for the children, it's covered with an unusual and eerie, it felt spooky being there. You can see the bats go away from the sides. On top of that altar is a large mound of dung. Now, I don't know if it's bat dung or bird dung or crow dung. It's a large, spooky pile of dung.
Look down where my feet are standing. I'm going to climb on top of their altar. And it was at that hole, right up there where you see that great pillar standing, that's where Jesus Christ stood. That pillar I was sitting on just a little bit ago. That's where the Savior of mankind stood. It really would begin his ministry. And he pointed at darkness. He pointed at darkness. And he said, "Get behind me, Satan." He was speaking to the spirit that was behind Peter. The spirit that was in this place. And I stand atop right now its altar.
I can't tell you what the piles of dung on top of the altars for the children are there at the Cave of Pan, but I can tell you they're bats that scoot. They're actually eerie bats that scoot this way and that, large bats.
On this is a pot. Look at how much bird dung has collected just under my. There were two pigeons sitting. I mean, is that an unnormal amount? I mean, I didn't even notice that until I got up here. Why are pigeons just crapping right on this one spot? The devil loves his BS, doesn't he?
It's also right here in this cave where it's believed in the book of Matthew, when Jesus, they traveled for 6 days, and then at the height of a tall mountain, Jesus transfigured before them a message to darkness. And Elisha and Moses appeared, and Peter was afraid. And this was the beginning of Jesus' ministry. He would be transfigured at the place of Pan, the place of the pandemic. And it was in fact at the mouth of this very cave where he said to Peter, he said to the spirit behind Peter, "Get behind me, Satan." He wasn't talking to Peter. He was standing right where this great pillar is. He was speaking to the spirit behind Peter. There are some who state that there are super secret elite groups out there in Illuminati that they summons devils and they're super smart and they control the world from behind the scenes. Well, people have been summoning devils for a very long time, but I hold the minority view on a lot of that, maybe all of that. Let me give you a practical example.
Okay, so we're on the Syrian border, and these are old bunkers. These are on the Israeli side. So we're walking literally inside of a bunker. As I come down these stairs, you're going in here, and we've got a little bit of light coming behind us. These fences are for two different causes. One, because you're looking at the Syrian border as I drive along this road. Number two, there are spots on this road where there are landmines that are between the fences.
Now, one of the age-old tricks behind, let's call them slippery people, is to cause waste, to lay waste to economic systems for, of course, their own gain. If everybody else goes down, idea is that they go up. Problem is that that can backfire on you, particularly, man. You gotta watch your prophecies. Otherwise, stuff like this. Wasn't Nero fiddling while his empire of Rome burned? Gotta know your prophecies.
Of Israel. So this is kind of a uncomfortable zone where I'm driving in. You're actually inside of, so on the news where you hear about the Golan Heights and all of this, I am on a desolate road right now, and I just left a set of tour buses where they have armed guards.
Now, I want to return for just a second to this Illuminati concept of there being some super smart think tank of individuals behind the scenes. Now, truth is what you got, and some of them are bright, but what you've actually got is a bunch of people at war with each other behind the scenes. But more than this has a long history. When radio was first developed, this was an absolute crisis for behind-the-scenes world leaders, the elites of the world, because prior to this, they just had to ride around in their big fancy clothes and pull up in their carriages, and people would think they were super important and probably really mystical characters. But what they discovered through radio is that when any of these people, these world leaders, would get on and begin to talk, the common man would come to understand that these people were stunningly absolute idiots.
This is as close as I think you can get from Israel to the Syrian border. And right here is an army compound, and if something goes down, which it just did 2 days ago, this is packed full of Israeli soldiers. So essentially what happened the other day is that the fighter jets, Israeli fighter jets, on the deck, which is basically close to the water, Sea of Galilee, came up over these mountains and went into Syria, where they took out 33 Iranian places, actually Iranian fortresses that were being built up to attack Israel.
And that history and problem is not new and goes all the way back to the days of Nimrod, even with his war with Noah, who began writing to the world's very first Nimrod that believed the entire world revolved around him, which turned out to be wrong. Noah was writing to him, saying, "Kid, you're an absolute Nimrod." In Israel, there were missiles fired into Israel in response to Donald Trump cutting the Iranian nuclear deal. And again, we're inside of a bunker that is on the Iranian side of the planet. It's a little eerie to be inside of this thing. It's got these corridors that go this way and that. We walked the ways in here. I don't know how deep inside of it that we actually got. This looks like we've run into another dead end. It's kind of like a maze of tunnels. And
this is the way to go deeper.
This is the way to go deeper. Okay, so I just want to be clear on everything that's gone down, if I'm understanding properly the news back here in America. So not long back, I was crawling around in bunkers in areas where chemical warfare has actually occurred on the border of Syria. And here in America, so some of the experts said that they thought there was a flu that somebody got, maybe a bad flu, somebody got from a bat in China, and they needed to shut down the entire world over this. They needed to shut down the entire world, kill all of the economies because there was a flu, you say. Everybody cover their mouths? That sounds like some really smart people, some smart Democratic experts. These were Democrat experts, you say? Some of those old demos, huh? Democrats. Well, guys, sounds like you got a case of Pandemonium, if I ever heard it. Marie Antoinette behind me during the French Revolution. While the people on the ground were starving, she couldn't manage her empire and wanted to put more burdens and controls on people's back. She's quoted as stating, "Let them eat cake." Her empire was ripped out from under her. None of this is new.
This program means that we get to eat today.
And we just got restocked the ice cream right for Easter Sunday because we were, shall we say, enjoying. I don't know what I would have done if ice cream were not invented.
And everyone who's making their own sacrifice at home with their families, all for the greater good.
Oh my, wow.
Other people in our family go for some other flavors, but chocolate, and then we have some other chocolate here.
And it's playing out across the country with many who have never had to line up for food donations before.
Is that if any of them had paid attention to the underlying prophecies, had just paid attention to those, or even their own prophecies from their own lands, or even their own pagan stuff, even had paid attention to their own pagan stuff at minimum, they would have known that the ending of any of it didn't revolve around them. I think your story, though, see, stories tend to end in the very spots where they began, like in Israel. In fact,
I'm on the Syrian border. I just did Code Breakers. Now we're going to head to Mount Precipice, Mount Carmel, then we're going to Jerusalem. And very exciting, all of this. It's starting to rain on me.
So after the wars of Noah, which we cover in this book right here, and the empire of Nimrod is rising, he worships the Enki, and one of his offspring, the offspring of Inanna or Semramses, is the Enkidu, otherwise known as Tammuz, or Pan. Well, we get to the worship of Pan, ultimately leading to the Canaanites, these abominations, some call Nephilim or Rephaim, or land of the blood-sucking vampires, is sometimes how that's translated. They were all over the land of Israel, called at that time Canaan. There are tunnels all over underneath Jerusalem. I crawl all through them in Lord of Spirits and Mount Hermon, available on GodInTheNutshell.com for watching immediately. Now it tells you that King Og was one of the sons of the biblical Anak, or the Sumerian Anunnaki. Over in here in Saudi Arabia, just across from the Red Sea, you have a place called Mecca, where they walk around a giant black stone, believing if they put their hands on the stone, it will take their sins away. A stone they believe fell from the sky. Now, King Og's empire is declared to us. He was one of the Rephaim, or a Nephilim, a son of Anak. His empire is said to stretch all the way to the base of Mount Hermon, or right there where Pan's cave was. And it's in the center of this mouth, like the tongue of the devil, that I'm standing on. Lord Jesus, I pray a protection. Lord Jesus, I pray that you keep me in the things that I do. I pray for everyone on the other side of this screen. It was 11:11 when I looked down and saw that right when I was doing that prayer. I saw them. 11:11 was how long my recording had been on. Isn't that funny? Speaking of well-funded temples, I'd like you to bear in mind what's essential this pandemic season. And whereas many of your businesses may have been shut down and declared as non-essential by the Democrat experts, and also there is no gathering at churches, and no like church, no. It is true that essential businesses are open. That would include your marijuana shops and obviously liquor stores. Those are definitely open and essential. And more than that, please remember Planned Parenthood this pandemic season. Their numbers and abortions appear to be down. Please keep them in your hearts and minds and think about them this season, even though you may be struggling and you may be going through some hardships. Bear in mind that all Planned Parenthood asks is for you to, even in the moment of hardship, come by and make just a little bit of a sacrifice, just a small sacrifice, something of yourself for Planned Parenthood this pandemic season. And also feel free to come on down and visit us down at the DNC, or the Democratic National Committee. We're located 1 block north of Santa's Warehouse. We're always working on new and exciting projects. Some of them already in your town, like trainings for kids, or exciting new projects like Story Time for Children, possibly already available in your child's school, as can be seen right here. These projects and new ones to come, with budgets of only a few $billion a year. You can spare it. That was all a joke, by the way. You got more than one pandemic going on. He came to pay your price. Nobody paid the price for those fallen angels. They got here, on their altars, they got piles of bird dung and old chipped up pieces of nothing. Temples that lasted for ages. It's crumbling apart. This is where Jesus stood in this place and pointed at darkness and said, "Now we begin." Now, these fallen angels, or fallen stars, that you read in Genesis 6, as well as in Enoch 6, King Og, the last of the Rephaim, there at the base of Mount Hermon, well, they would have affiliated him all the way back with Pan, or Tammuz, or the Enkidu, who would affiliate back to the Enki, whose symbol would have been Saturn, the 6th planet. And these, the sons of Anak, would have also been the sons of Saturn, or the sons of Satan. Now, the tomb of King Og, this Rephaim, or vampire blood sucker, blood mix, as they would have called it. In Deuteronomy, it records that King Og was buried in a tomb made of stone that was 13 feet long and 6 feet wide. It was a special black stone, a stone they believed fell from the sky. So to summarize this, Pan, and he actually traces all the way back to your original Nakash, right there seen by the tree, the serpent thing. Actually, you'll be really fascinated between these two books, actually leading into this one. Actually leading all the way through into this one about the garments that come from the garden of God. That's one of my favorite parts of this whole thing. But Pan into the aristocrats and the elite, the richie riches. Pan is their Pied Piper playing for the children to lead them all to drown in the water. If you remember the Pied Piper story, and he was leading the little children to go drowned. So the aristocrats, they like their pedophilia through Pan. Pan likes his pharmakia, which is a strange brew of things, including bats. And Pan needs to be in all. And sometimes getting it all is through, they like the little sacrifices. And also like the mixtures of things with the fetal tissue. So painting a picture, and Pan stretches all the way back to the very base of Mount Hermon, found in your pre-flood world. Cover that in there too. This is a quote from Benjamin Franklin behind me. Some of this prophetic stuff deals with your dollar bill. Of course, Benjamin Franklin is on your dollar bill. And he says here, any society that would give up a little teeny bit of liberty to gain temporary security, like in the time of a virus, deserves neither and will ultimately lose both. I pray against that for America. One of the things I'm really thrilled at is how America opens its eyes quick. America is a nation set aside by God himself. And yes, in prophetic stuff, you've got stuff about China. You've got stuff about Russia. You've got stuff about the Middle East heavy. You've got the Gog-Magog war. Sunni, Shiite, Iran, Saudi, the bio-war stuff. Now, there's a virus, a flu running loose. Reports are, you look at the reports. I begin moving stuff over on the God in a Nutshell, like this video behind me, because of more of a feeling that I can speak freely on God in a Nutshell. I also invite during this time other writers. If you're a writer and you want to write on God in a Nutshell, write to us. But I've begun moving quite a few stuff over to godinanutshell.com. That's godinanutshell.com. Like the BioWar tapes, which we actually retitled and remixed to be called The Edge of Prophecy, along with lists of other stuff that I feel more comfortable sharing on my own website, the way it used to be done in the old-fashioned days. Pan, good old Pan. Well, he's there at the beginning. He's definitely going to be there popping loose at the end. In fact, Pan is the god of deception. So is the Enki. So are all these other things. And in Matthew 24, when the disciples go to Jesus and they say, Lord, Master, Rabbi, what will be the sign of your coming in the end of the age? And Jesus replies, he says that see that no man deceives you. So deception is the name of the game during the end times. You will hear of wars and rumors of wars. But see that your hearts not be troubled, for these things must come to pass. They must come to pass. The end is not yet. There will be earthquakes and famines and pestilence in various and diverse places. See that your hearts not be troubled. This is a story. You're living in a story that began with two little trees. And on your way to the end of that story, God has some neat things in store. And it's not all of the bad guys getting to do their bad stuff. In fact, in the process of that, you get a fun little roller coaster ride. Man, I'm telling you, to understand the ending, you really need to understand everyone needs, even the pagan guys, need to understand the beginning.
spiritual eyes. You don't just look with natural eyes. Now we've had a shooting right up the road from the House of Destiny, and now right up the road, like literally we're just a few miles away from where we do our broadcast. That is where my dad prayed. My dad prayed. I've gone up that mountain. Oh my goodness.
Hey, you want to ask him what's going on?
No, I don't want to interrupt the cops, but they're trying to do their job.
So, is there evil stuff going loose? You better believe it. There has been all the way back, actually since before the flood, but even after the flood, in the days of Nimrod. All three of these, I finally got these up as ebooks over at godinanutshell.com. You can get them all as a batch. Also, they all come, you get the ebooks immediately if you get a set of the physical copies.
Fire's coming to my house. Get over the hill, for God's sake!
Mom, Dad's mountain is on fire. It's exactly where Dad would go to pray. That whole trail up there where he would go walk and pray is on fire. We just filmed the whole thing.
It's coming over the hill to me, for God's sake!
What are you gonna do?
Get over here and help me!
Okay,
Go,
I'm turning around. I'm coming to help you.
Go now. And we're able to ship now. Again, I'm so thrilled about that. Over on God in a Nutshell, I want to edge of prophecy. These clips come, speaking of shady stuff, this is from the California wildfires. They ate all of the property surrounding Jane Clement, the prophet Kim Clement's home. I was there with the fires that I'm not going to eat us alive.
Yeah, I'm with Trey Smith, God in a Nutshell, and he's going to show you, he's going to hold the camera up so you guys can see the fire.
Okay, if you can still hear us talking on Facebook Live, what you're looking at live right now as we drive the car is, and these fires are on the same mountain where Kim Clement used to go and pray. You're looking at the mountain. Right now you're looking through a cell phone. We're on Facebook Live. This is the same place where Kim Clement would go up on top of the mountain and pray.
This website that I'm on behind me, this is called House of Destiny. This is the ministry of Jane Clement, Kim Clement's wife, and Donna Clement Petruska. And I would ask you to go over, she does something called Prophetic Rewind. And on a weekly basis, they go through and they put up new videos from her father. In fact, one of the last videos that I did, a secret letter to Trump. This was about a letter, a private letter from her father to Donald Trump. There are obviously prophecies and prophets that have actually gotten stuff wrong, that go in and meet with the president, that talk about the illness of Kim Jong-un that's going on right now, or whatever may be occurring. That's in the string of things leading to some large financial things. And very good, very nice men. The date on that actually was 2006, not 2016. And if others can go in, I would appeal that the lady at the very source not only go and subscribe to her things, but also write to the president and let the president know that this lady would really enjoy to have audience with the President of the United States.
This is on the same day, or the day after actually, but this is the night that they're doing a prayer vigil for the 12 victims who were killed just a few miles from here at a nightclub last night in Thousand Oaks. There were 35 injured, as I understand it, and 12 are dead. That number could have changed.
I put together a video of the same title, The Edge of Prophet. Actually, we had some different titles. Some of it we uploaded, and we got some fishy messages from YouTube as opposed to having issues with those folks, which I don't want to have. What I've done is I've moved a lot of things over to some libraries on God in a Nutshell. So this is what the God in a Nutshell website looks like right behind me. And inside this site, a section becomes available right up in here that says partners, with a number of different articles, a library of videos in it. So if you register on the site, just right over through the shop section, I've got a whole library of stuff, including stuff that was blocked. Let me show you what it looks like. Okay, so in the back end, and I'm actually, right while I'm putting this tape up, I'm adding more stuff to it, which I'll be continuing to do, so we have a full library of videos there. If I scroll down the page, you've got lists, any one of these, you can just click and you watch it right this second. And some of these are some of our most beautiful videos from the past. And they're right there. You can watch them this minute, including this Edge of Prophecy, which is going to talk to you. You're going to walk through China. You're going to walk through the bat stuff and the bat story just a touch. But you're going to make it beyond that to some plans that may be a little bit larger. All of those, many of these prophecies came together in my head like a glove, leading to what's going to happen with your financial systems.
Donna did a very good interview and prayed also with Charlie, who was Kim Clement's bassist, who said really a moving prayer with those people tonight. It was on the way home from that very interview that Jane frantically called, and there were fires going on. We've been in traffic for more than an hour. Jane's house is up against where these fires are.
Leading to the answers behind the letter Q, or some mysterious things about the letter Q. There's just a lot in that. That video is worth watching, The Edge of Prophecy. I do want to note that several of these things, including The Edge of Prophecy, are things that we had up for a minute on YouTube, and then we had issues with them, and I felt like it was just the safest to begin cataloging stuff over on God in a Nutshell, particularly really, really strong things. And these clips that you're looking at now are from the California wildfires, before the Clements moved out of California. Now, there were not only prophecies that Donald Trump, as you have seen before if you watch my stuff, but they're also in the chain of things, meeting with Kim Jong-un, that would be a big sign, but also medical things revolving around Kim Jong-un as you move towards your big financial things. You're right at the doorstep of that. I really recommend give us a shot over at God in a Nutshell. I ask you to. On this stuff here, I ask you to.
He set in motion something that he could not have seen before. Essentially what he did is he lifted the lid on all the secret things that Iran was doing in Syria, right across this border. And so Israel was then able to send fighter jets that went in stealth and hit 33. Every single Iranian fortress that was set up to invade Israel was wiped out.
Lord Jesus, I just pray a protection. I stand right here, in the same place that you stood, Lord Jesus. I stand here in this very spot, Lord. And I ask for your protection on my life. I ask for your protection against darkness and all of its wiles. I ask for protection for every one of you that watches these things that I make.
I'm Trey Smith of God in a Nutshell. I really would like to see these eventually, these right here. Again, they're all up as ebook. You can start reading them immediately. And if you get the physical copies, you get the ebooks immediately as well. I'd really like to see all of these. Not only are we working on the movies for these right this second, I'd really like to see these put in education at some point, because they are strong enough for that. I'm Trey Smith. God bless every last one of you and your families on the other side of this screen. Go watch The Edge of Prophecy. You're gonna pay very close attention to it. It's one you may want to watch more than once. It's 2 hours long, and it's good. It's originally called the Bio-War Tapes, and I guess they didn't like that, but it went so much farther than that. It wasn't even a fair title anyway. It's The Edge of Prophecy. And also back there, you've got the God Dimension, and I forgot how good that one was. I watched the end of it again today while I was uploading it. Talking about the involved, the number 6, the connector between heaven and earth. I'm Trey Smith. God bless every last one of you and your families on the other side of the screen.